Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program will begin momentarily. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program is about to begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program begins now. Welcome to the 23rd Annual Datos, the State of Arizona's Hispanic Market. Please join me in welcoming our MC, Natalie Valenzuela.
Thank you. Good morning, buenos días, ¿cómo están? Hold on, let's try that one more time. Good morning, buenos días, ¿cómo están? How are you? I'm so glad to be here with you this morning. I'm Natalie Valenzuela. I am with Univision Arizona, and it is my pleasure to be emceeing. Yes, where's our Univision table? I heard you. As you can see, I brought my posse. There are a couple of ground rules. So I'm nervous. This is a big room. There's a lot of people. I don't usually see the people I speak to on camera or on the radio. So if I try to make any attempts at jokes, please laugh even if it's not funny. Okay, thank you. Yes, you guys learned so fast. And that's really the only ground rule. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Since it's Hispanic Heritage Month, quiero darles la bienvenida a todos ustedes. I'm so pleased to join you this morning. Es un placer estar aquí. Is it a placer to be here for you too? Yes. On behalf of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, thank you all for being here for the release of the 23rd edition of Datos, the State of Arizona's Hispanic Market. Datos is the single most comprehensive collection of research data on Arizona's Hispanic market. No other chamber of commerce in the country produces a similar report, and I know from being here a few years and seeing this wonderful event that it is one of my personal favorite events. During today's program, you'll hear from several great speakers, including the New Arizona Hispanic Chamber President and CEO, Monica Villalobos, who I will say also serves as the publication's editor. As guests here today, each of you should have already received a copy of the full report on a flash drive as you got here. The flash drive contains this year's Datos report. You may have noticed a copy of the Phoenix Business Journal at your seat that also provides valuable information and a sample of what you will find in the 300-page book. Sounds like a lot of pages, but I promise you it's very valuable information. It also features other research publications produced by the Hispanic Chamber in recent years, including past editions of Datos. The Chamber invites you to let the world know you're here today. We all love social media, yes? So make sure you use your social media platforms using hashtag DatosAZ. If you need Wi-Fi access, you can connect to the free link generously provided by PSAV. Details on how to connect are on your table. Just use password DATOS2019 as shown on the screens. You can see it right now. Speaking of Wi-Fi, since I'm sure most of you have your phones on hand because we rarely operate without them, we're going to give you all a chance to win one of 3 great prizes. This is the thing I'm most excited about. Of course, yes, the information, but we love free stuff. So we have a pair of tickets valued at $800 to attend the 62nd Annual Black and White Ball and Business Awards in May 2020, brunch for 2 here at the beautiful Arizona Biltmore, or a round-trip airfare and hotel for 2 to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, courtesy of Volaris Airlines and Travel Mexico. That sounds pretty exciting, right? PetSmart Charities has made it possible to win by generously sponsoring our mobile-enabled website, which allows you to interact with today's presentation by answering a few questions online. The Hispanic Chamber's Digital Marketing Manager, Maria Sanchez, is at the controls of our PetSmart Charities link for today's event. So, are you ready? This table 6, yes, I love you. I love you already, I know we just met. But yes, are you ready? Is everybody else ready? Perfect. Open your browser and type in azhcc.com. It's up on the screen right now as well for reference. Go ahead and take a second to pull up that URL. Again, you can see it on the screen. Remember, there's $800 of black and white gala tickets, round-trip airfare and hotel for 2, courtesy of Volaris Airlines and Travel Mexico, and brunch here at the Arizona Biltmore ready to be won, right at your fingertips, literally. Okay, if you're here at the site now, you'll see the PetSmart Charities mobile-enabled website link at the top of the page. For a chance to win, all you have to do is answer those questions before the end of today's program. The winners will be announced before we leave. And for those of you who hate taking tests, relax. The answers will be provided during this morning's presentation, so it's super easy. We just have to listen and not take too many phone calls or bathroom breaks because, you know, those tickets to Puerto Vallarta are on the line. So good luck, everyone. Now, what do you say we get on with the program? Yes, we're going to begin with today's invocation. Please stand and welcome to the stage the Most Reverend Bishop Eduardo Nevares.
Put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear.
Thank you very much. Let's pray. Padre, te adoro, ante ti me postro, como te amo. Jesús, te adoro, ante ti me postro, como te amo. Espíritu, te adoro, ante ti me postro, como te amo. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we praise you and thank you for your many gifts. We thank you for gathering us. We thank you for all of the business and entrepreneur people assembled. We pray that you continue to bless each of their businesses, each of their efforts in building up the economic success of the great state of Arizona. And all this we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen. Please be seated.
Thank you, Bishop Nevares, for your blessings and touching prayer. Now, I would like to introduce the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Board Chair, Miguel Bravo.
Hey, thank you, Natalie. Thank you for being here, your great energy. I think the picture was shown is from when I joined the Chamber Board about 12 years ago, so forgive me for that. But welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure and a privilege to serve on the Board of Directors. And I want to thank every single one of you for being here, our members, our small business allies, our chamber allies, our corporate and nonprofit partners, philanthropic partners. You're all part of our family, and we couldn't do this without you. I do want to take a moment and ask every elected and appointed official to please stand and be recognized so we can thank you for your service. I'd like to recognize a special guest at my table, the recently appointed Consul General of Mexico in Phoenix, the Honorable Jorge Mendoza Yescas. Bienvenido, Consul. Thanks to your support and SRP's leading investment in Datos, Datos remains the #1 Hispanic market intelligence resource in Arizona. And now more than ever, we need Datos, reliable data, good insights to help our companies and organizations make sound decisions to succeed in an economy that's being transformed by the Hispanic market. And no one has done more to evolve Datos and make sure it stays relevant than our own Monica Villalobos, our newly appointed Chamber CEO. And now I have the distinct honor to introduce the 23rd Governor of the state of Arizona, the Honorable Doug Ducey.
Put your pinky rings up to the moon.
And Governor,
What y'all trying to do?
I took chairman privilege, and I'm not going to follow your bio, but I do want to highlight some amazing things you've done. From day one of his administration, Governor Ducey made it a priority to make Arizona a land of opportunity for all. Governor Ducey has elevated the reputation of our state nationally and internationally through smart economic policies that have created fiscal stability in a state that historically has experienced volatility with every housing boom and bust. Today, the state budget is balanced with a $1 billion surplus and $1 billion in its rainy day fund. He has built a reputation for a hands-on approach to helping companies expand in our market while tackling big issues that affect everyone in this room, like healthcare, education, public safety, and free trade. Arizona Hispanic businesses are thriving, and our state has become the best place for business thanks to strategic actions by the governor like rolling back regulations, and his leadership in establishing the best trade relationship with Mexico our state has had in its history. A champion of free trade, Governor Ducey has been Arizona's leading advocate in the ratification of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, not just for the health of Arizona, but the health of our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, please help our friend, welcome our friend, Governor Doug Ducey.
Thank you. Thank you. Gracias, Miguel. Buenos dias, everyone. And thank you for the beautiful prayer, Bishop Navarez. I want to thank the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to the 23rd annual release of the Datos report. And first, I want to say a big congratulations to the Chamber's new president and CEO, Monica Villalobos. Monica, Arizona wishes you great success in your new role. With a relentless entrepreneurial spirit, a strong work ethic, an unwavering belief in the American dream, Arizona's Hispanic community has been integral to life in the state of Arizona for generations. With 2019 came a special milestone, the 60th anniversary of the Arizona-Mexico Commission. I am immensely proud of the hard work, dedication, and collaboration that has taken place over 6 decades through the AMC to improve the quality of life for every resident of Arizona and Sonora. And our relationship with Mexico through the AMC has never been stronger. And today, with the release of the latest Datos report, we are reminded once again of all the ways our Hispanic community continues to enrich life in the state of Arizona. Art, literature, music, and food, strong faith, and strong values, along with beautiful families and a flourishing business community, plus so much more. These contributions are something for Arizona to celebrate today and every day. And as you'll see as the report is unveiled, Hispanic businesses, entrepreneurs, and consumers continue to be a driving force behind Arizona's economic and national success. So today I want to thank the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for all you do to help these businesses and consumers thrive. Your support of the Hispanic business community and your generosity through scholarship opportunities and educational efforts has been exceptional. You are a model for other like-minded organizations across the country to follow, and I want you to know that I am grateful for your work. In our state, we have an economy that continues to roar. It comes as no surprise that the impact of the Hispanic community has on our state and nation continues to grow. And let me share with you some dramatic examples of the success happening here in Arizona. From 2000 to 2017, Arizona's Hispanic population grew 42%. Today, it is over 2.2 million people. Today, 51% of Hispanic people in Arizona are homeowners. And by 2022, Hispanic buying power in Arizona will surpass $57 billion. There's no other way to put it. These numbers are outstanding and impressive, and they are something that every Arizonan can be proud of. There's something else I'd like to mention this morning. The 2020 census is right around the corner, and Arizona is taking steps to make sure that every person in this state is counted through the Arizona Complete Count Committee. Now, before I close, I'd like to invite Monica back on the stage, if you would, Monica. Monica, today we do celebrate the release of the Datos report, but Arizona also wants to reaffirm our appreciation of the countless ways the Hispanic community and its heritage has enriched our state for generations. So with that, it is my privilege to proclaim September 15th to October 15th, 2019 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Arizona. So with that, let me just close by saying to everyone at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce how grateful I am for your work, what a spotlight it has put on our state. Thank you, God bless, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Governor Ducey. The Chamber appreciates your continued support and leadership. Now please join me in welcoming to the stage Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego.
Put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear. Look out. Pop, pop, it's showtime.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I am Phoenix's new mayor, Kate Gallego, celebrating 6 months tomorrow. I look forward to Datos every year, celebrating the economic powerhouse that is Arizona's Latino community. We love seeing this report, seeing how far the Latino community has come, but also talking about the work we still have yet to do. But this year I come as a particularly grateful mayor. The Arizona Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce endorsed our Invest in Phoenix campaign, which was on the ballot this August. And with your help, we delivered a great win for the people of Phoenix. We are joined here today by Councilwoman Pastor, who co-chaired the successful campaigns, which protected our light rail system and allowed the city to invest in our future. We are the fastest growing city in the United States of America. Phoenix added more people than any other city in the United States last year, and the support of our voters in being able to invest in the future is so important. Today we talk about health in particular, and with your support we'll be able to invest in a wide variety of things going before the city this fall, including investing in a healthy food plan for our community, as well as just building a more vibrant community. Led by Councilman Nowakowski this fall, we will move forward with a plan for a Latino Cultural Center in the city of Phoenix. And led by Councilwoman Williams and Councilman Garcia, moving forward with a major community safety plan. So it's an exciting time for us at the city of Phoenix, and our Latino employees are leading the way. Especially Deanna Janovich, who was just this year appointed the highest ranking Latina in city manager history, our assistant city manager, and a member of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber Board of Directors. We are also excited that our Hispanic Employees Network at the City of Phoenix was recognized as the largest of its kind in the country. And it is exciting to come here during Hispanic Heritage Month and celebrate the great information in this report. I joined Governor Ducey in celebrating the really stunning numbers, $57 billion in buying power by 2020, and seeing how much my little toddler likes toys, I think we may have to even adjust that upwards. Latinos now represent 56% of undergraduates enrolled in four-year public institution, and now half of our homeowners. And this year in particular, whether we're looking at our boardrooms or the halls of government, it is clear that this is the year of she, el año de ella. And I want to join everyone in congratulating Monica on her great role and her role as editor this year. The report reminds us of many important items, but that we also have more work to do. 31% of Latinos have experienced discrimination when trying to rent or buy housing. And without dreamers, our country will face a $433 billion reduction in economic growth over the next 10 years. Looking around the room, however, I see a lot of people who aren't afraid of working hard to gain ground. I see people who turn "Si se puede" into "Yes, we did." I know that this room and the City of Phoenix are up for the challenge, and I look forward to celebrating the great year ahead. Thank you again for your support of the City of Phoenix.
Thank you, Mayor Gallego. I love that. Si se puede, and yes, we did. We appreciate your words and leadership. Today's premier sponsor and a founding sponsor of this event is Salt River Project. I am honored to welcome to the stage General Manager and Chief Communications Executive for SRP, Elena Chabrier.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I know for many of you here today, the vital work of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and this data has helped all of you to inform in vital business decisions and also inspire you. And that's been going on for more than 2 decades. That's certainly been the case at SRP. We've looked to this information as a key resource for us. It's helped inform a more aggressive long-term sustainability plan. It's helped us drive our economic development strategy, and it also helps in our everyday efforts to better understand our community and deliver on our mission. The Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce carries on this tradition by doing this work for us, generating and maintaining this critical resource of information. But as you leave here today, I ask you not to forget one really important thing. Behind these numbers is a person, a family, a business, and a lot of hope. Hope for a better future. So our partners at the Hispanic Chamber keep that at the forefront in everything they do as they gather this information for us. So we're very proud of our long-standing relationship with them because we both have the best interest of our state at hand. I also know all of you have that as well. So we're grateful for this opportunity to partner with the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I want to thank you for being here, our leadership, our elected board and council, and all our employees. And I know that all of us are going to continue our efforts for a much better future that we know is possible. Thank you. So I'd like to ask you to join me in watching this brief video.
Thank you once again to SRP for your generous support. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Annette Musa, Vice Chair of the Board of Directors for the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Natalie. In addition to our premier sponsor, SRP, we would like to thank all of our sponsors that made this important event possible. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Equality Health, Mayo Clinic, PetSmart Charities, the Phoenix Business Journal, Univision Arizona, Valley Wise Health, and Vitalist. Can we please give a hand to those who have sponsored the event today? The Chamber would also like to give thanks to our nearly 70 Los Amigos corporate members who make possible all of our events throughout the year. This is also a milestone for Univision Arizona, isn't it, Natalie?
It absolutely is.
So first, Univision Arizona is celebrating a big milestone. Its 40-year anniversary, and that's a 40-year anniversary in Arizona. They provided 4 decades of informing, entertaining, and empowering the Arizona community. A trusted voice committed to both service and social responsibility. And on behalf of the Hispanic Chamber, we congratulate Univision Arizona on serving and informing our community for the past 40 years. Please join me in a big congratulations to Univision Arizona. And now it's time for the big event. But I want to share with you that it's a very exciting time at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber. There's been a lot of important developments over the past few years. And today, it is my distinct pleasure to make a very special introduction. As many of you know, our president and CEO, Gonzalo de la Melena, announced his retirement from the chamber about 6 months ago. Now, for those of you that knew Gonzalo, you knew that this replacing him was going to be a very tall order. He's done a wonderful job in building this organization to where it is today. So I would like to reflect back, and I would like all of us to give a big hand to Gonzalo for where he's taken our organization to date. However, we did have to let Gonzalo go. So I was part of a committee comprised of the Chamber Board to conduct a search for the new president and CEO. And today, I am very pleased to announce that we have selected from within our organization Monica Villalobos as our president and CEO. Monica has, give her another hand. Monica has demonstrated strong leadership within our organization for the past 7 years. While many of you know her as leading this very Datos research initiative, she has also provided significant leadership within the chamber on many different levels. She's provided important oversight and oversight within the MBDA Center that provides significant access to contracts and capital for businesses. She's been instrumental in supporting a team of now 15 employees. And so today, it is my pleasure to introduce her as the new Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce CEO and President. Please join me in congratulating her.
Bienvenidos y gracias. I'm a little impressed too. I made it up those stairs without falling, so it's already a good day. We're off to a good start. The truth is, I am not CEO. We are CEO. We are collaborators enthusiastically optimizing. And I look forward to working with all of you, including the dedicated team at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, to serve our membership and to scale their businesses and add to Arizona's economy. With that, I'd like to recognize my colleagues at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. If they will please stand and be recognized, and we can give them a warm round of applause, please. Nothing happens without them. This includes the important work of the Phoenix MBDA Center, led by Alika Kumar, a long-standing and vital part of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber's economic development work. It's the best performing MBDA center of all 38 in the nation. And today, they are hosting a Hungarian delegation focused on advancing minority rights through Global Ties Arizona, which operates the State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program. I ask that you give this Hungarian delegation a warm welcome to Arizona. Thank you to Alika Kumar and Izzy Gonzalez, who are hosting them and showing them all the wonderful attributes of Arizona. It is because of their work that I am thrilled to share with you that the National MBDA Office has just awarded us a $650,000 federal grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce to serve the Native American community. This initiative will be led by Karen Lynn Graves and Peter Schwartz in partnership with the Native American Fatherhood and Family Association to create the Native American Business Enterprise Development Center right here in Arizona. This grant is the single largest annual in the Hispanic Chamber's 70-year history. I'd like to recognize Karen, Peter, and Al and Amy from NAFA at this time. As you may have surmised, my vision includes the 3 C's: a culture of inclusion, a collaborative spirit, and sharing core competencies as we champion the economic impact of the emerging multicultural majority, leading our state and nation. For example, I have convened the Chamber Collaborative with the leaders of the other ethnic chambers: Robin Reed from the Black Chamber, Vic Reed from the Asian Chamber, Sean Kwani from the Native American Chamber, and John Lee from the Chinese Chamber, as well as Ricardo Carlo from the AMCA, to share best practices and combine our resources. You can expect great work, great collaborative work from the Chamber Collaborative. I'd like to recognize those leaders now. When Arizonans and Americans think of the multicultural majority, this is the image that often comes to mind: the faces of hardworking Hispanics and other groups, too often marginalized and working in the shadows of our communities. This work by Griselda Vasquez shows the new American Gothic. Again, all hardworking people. But this is only a sliver of the story. Our humble beginnings, if you will. Today, we are leading the way in our classrooms, our boardrooms, our operating rooms, and courtrooms. Together, we are Arizona. We are America, unapologetically. Like many, I hold many roles: single mom, student, business owner, but most of all, I am committed to creating stronger, more vibrant cities and communities across our great state for my children and yours. The data are clear. Latinas are the vanguard and quickly becoming the new economy here and across the US. But like any good leader, I am keenly aware that I stand on the shoulders of giants who came before me and blazed the trail. I think of Sandra Ferniza, who led the Hispanic Chamber for a decade, and all of the other board members, presidents, and staff, many of which who are in this room, as well as my immediate predecessor, Gonzalo. I am grateful to all of you. To the board and selection committee, thank you for picking me. I picked you a long time ago. This is home, and you are part of my family. You gave me the job. Our membership gives me purpose. I am confident that the Hispanic Chamber will play an even more critical cog in our economics, policy, and cultural development. It's time to seize the moment. I'm personally inviting all of you to reach out to connect with me and our team so we can shape the future together, solving problems and carving new pathways for our children and future leaders. As the data will bear out, Arizona's Latinx community serves as a bellwether for the country. We are all proud to call Arizona home. My invitation to you is simple. Let's move forward collectively. So let's see what the numbers tell us. You know that Datos is a work by many. We have a committee of subject matter experts that lend their expertise to Datos, their research, their great minds. And if I can please have all of the members of our makeshift editorial board of the Datos Committee please stand to be recognized at this time. Thank you for all of your hard work. I remind the team every year, this event doesn't happen without the book. So we've got to get that done, and these are the individuals that make that happen. Also, we have an amazing production team. This year, we've got 300 pages chock full of information to help you make better decisions. This team is dedicated, as you will always hear me say, to providing reliable, responsible, and relevant data. We work with interns, we work with staff, but most importantly is our creative director, who makes it all look beautiful and intelligible, Carmen Martinez. Today, we're happy to partner again with Vitalist Health Foundation. Last year, we introduced a framework of data to help us filter the data and look at it through a new lens. We are grateful to Vitalist for that partnership and helping us take our data to the next level. These elements of a healthy community help us have more productive conversations with our partners in corporate Arizona. So for instance, we know that 10% of Hispanics are food insecure or live in food deserts. That allows us to have conversations with food retail partners, not about the latest fiesta to sponsor. Those things are important and we'd like to have that. But we can have a more powerful conversation about zip codes that need access to affordable food, fresh fruits and vegetables. That is a powerful conversation that we want to have. And that's what this framework allows us to do. I want to give you some fast facts. These are the numbers to remember. I won't go through all of them in detail, but they also happen to be part of the trivia on your mobile platform. I know you've put your phones away and you're not paying any attention to calls and texts and social media, but I invite you to go ahead and do that. I'll give you that permission. Right now on that mobile platform, you're being asked 4 questions. You might want to pay special attention to this slide. We know that in the United States, there are about 60 million Hispanics. If we were our own country, we would be 25th of the 233 recognized in the world. U.S. Hispanics could make up their own country. We also know that 1 in 5 Americans is Hispanic, and 1 in 4 children are born to Hispanic mothers. Again, this is a driving force, not only in our population, but also in our economy, now reaching $1.7 trillion in purchasing power, more than the GDP of Australia and Canada. Locally, here in Arizona, we know there are 2.2 million Hispanics in our state. We are 30% of the state, 40% of Phoenix Metro, and more than 50% of our K through 12 system. We are driving, again, not only the population and the diversity in our state, but also the purchasing power at $47 billion in 2017. These are conservative numbers. I agree with Mayor Gallego. With all of the money that I spend on my 7 and 10-year-old, I think that number should be much higher. Let's talk a little bit about business. The number of Hispanic-owned businesses has doubled in the last 10 years. What we've seen is that these businesses are growing. They're legitimizing. A lot of home-based businesses are now legitimizing and putting up their shingles. It's an exciting time in our country. It's also an exciting time in our state. Between 2007 and 2012, all small business saw about 2% growth. Minority-owned businesses, 60% growth. Hispanic-owned businesses, 70% growth. And Hispanic women-owned businesses, 116% growth. Let's talk a little bit about healthcare. We know that this is strongly connected to business. 40% of small business owners state that their greatest challenge is paying for healthcare. In the media, we also see that Hispanic unemployment is going down, and that's true. However, part of the reason is that they're holding multiple part-time jobs. So rather than being able to work in a full-time job where they would get health care, they would be eligible for health care, they're working 2, 3, sometimes 4 part-time jobs just to make ends meet and not get health care. That's a big challenge for our community. Also, the rising medical costs and all of the different social determinants that you will hear about later on our panel that contribute to poor health and that are devastating to Hispanic businesses. We know from our research that 56% of minority-owned businesses in the state of Arizona are minority-owned, and there's a huge lack of succession planning. And what does that mean for healthcare? If one member of that family goes down, the whole family goes down, and the business goes by the wayside. So healthcare is absolutely critical to our businesses. As a small business state, we know 98% of all jobs come from small business. We need to be able to find solutions for them to provide health care for their employees. We also know that only 17% of Latinos lacked health insurance in 2015. We saw an 11 percentage point drop from 2013. My eyes are failing me here. From 2013, we saw an 11 percentage point drop. Meaning more Latinos do have insurance. In large part, that's part of ACA, right? But what our data also shows is that there is a very big difference between having insurance and having access to adequate health care. And that's where the problem comes in. We still know that Hispanics have the lowest rate of health care insurance coverage. So for us, that's absolutely critical, making sure that we are not falling behind in our Hispanic health coverage. We know that our counterparts in the white, Asian, and Black communities are adopting health insurance and are getting health insurance at a much higher rate. Right now, there are serious barriers to accessing health care in our community. We know this because of the research being done by our partners at the Maricopa County Public Health Department. They did a survey of about 3,000 individuals in Arizona. And what they found is that the number one barrier and the number one issue is not having insurance coverage. Also not having enough insurance coverage. So what we're finding is that a lot of Hispanics, while they may have insurance and they may be new to obtaining insurance, they have insurance that is good for catastrophic care,
but they still have high deductible plans, and there's still high medical co-payments and medical costs that are associated with that as well. So these continue to be barriers. We also know that the leading causes for Hispanics are cancer and heart disease. One of the things that you will hear from our panel today are these social determinants that can provide preventative health, and that Hispanics are not taking advantage of, are not modifying different behaviors that impact health. What we know from West Group right now, and actually this is not from West Group, this is from the Community Health Initiative, and only 10% of healthcare issues are related to genes and biology. That means that there's another 90% that we can do something about. So when you look at that data with Hispanics and cancer and heart disease being the number one and number two causes of death, we know that 90% of the things that contributed to that can be modified, and we need to work toward that. We know again that there are a lot of social determinants, cultural barriers. You'll hear from Equality Health on our panel today. Hugh Lytle, their CEO, is with us to tell us about those different issues and how they are bringing culturally competent care to the medical field. One of them is that Latinos feel discriminated when they go to a doctor or a healthcare clinic. I can remember my grandmother saying, "Yo no voy al doctor porque me van a encontrar algo." Right? I don't go to the doctor because they're going to find something wrong with me. It's not really the way it works. We need to break through some of those cultural barriers. Children of color in Arizona are much more likely to live in poverty. Again, those things like living in food deserts, are things that we can solve, that we can have powerful conversations about, and that we're improving here in Arizona. We also know that Latinos we'd like to take our family everywhere. You go to the grocery store and it is a family event. Same thing at the doctor. What do you mean 12 of us can't fit in the examination room? You go to hospitals and you visit Latinos and it is, it's a lot of people. You know who the Latino patients are. It's pretty clear. And we also know that we like to take our family members and friends whenever we go to the doctor as well. That's a special kind of care. I don't know that they teach that in medical school. In addition to that, we know that about a third of Hispanics in Arizona have received medical care in Mexico. We partnered with West Group Research, and they surveyed folks here in the last couple of months and found out that they're taking their treatment elsewhere. And it's less about the quality of the care and much more about the cultural relevance of that care, of being able to speak to someone in language or in culture. Finally, with our partnership with Oya Intelligence, our entrepreneur Eric Diaz is with us today. He did a search on social media and spied a little on our conversations. This should make you nervous. He's able to reach out and look at social media conversations and find out what are the hot buttons around healthcare. 1/3 of the conversations that he captured were about customer service in medical care. It wasn't the healthcare itself, that was certainly a part of it, but it was customer service, how I'm treated when I get there. This is a critical issue, not only for Arizona, but for business owners. And we want to be a part of that solution, and that's what today's program is all about. Finally, mi gente, this is not medical care. I've got a duck. My mother's in the front row, and she's gonna throw a chancla right now. She's like, "What are you talking about?" Of course that is, everyone knows that Vaporub cures cancer and broken legs, and You know, you just put a little vaporu and you're good to go, right? Again, on a serious note, we need to take our healthcare seriously. We know there's a divide, and I look forward to working with all of you to make that happen. Thank you so much.
I don't know, Monica. My grandma would definitely argue que el vaporú sí es lo que recomendó el doctor.
Por supuesto.
I mean, I don't know. Once again, a round of applause for Monica Villalobos. I don't know about you, but I feel like I could hear her speak forever. I just love her presentation so much. So now that we've all heard all about the elements of a healthy community from a data perspective, it's time to hear from someone who can help us apply this data to our businesses and communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Rafael Fonseca. Dr. Fonseca is the Getz Family Professor of Cancer and a Professor of Medicine. He's also a consultant in the Division of Hematology and Oncology at the Mayo Clinic, Arizona. And as you may have read, the Mayo Clinic Hospital in Arizona was again ranked #1 in Arizona and the Phoenix metro area, and #18 nationally by US News and World Report.
Thank you very much. If I could get a slide changer, the clicker. What an honor to be here. It's really awe-inspiring just seeing this group and the energy we have. I am mostly a medical speaker, so I think you've made it when you get music when you jump into the stage. Hey, that's really, really cool. And thank you. And Monica, by the way, the joke about Vaporub, I'm going to steal that totally. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and how this relates perhaps to the topic we're discussing today. I'll make some remarks about the Mayo Clinic, remarks about innovation and the change we're seeing. But most importantly, I'll finish with a call to action and what can we do as a community and what this group can do as a community to make a difference for Hispanics. So this is my title slide. You'll see on the top left there the Mayo Clinic logo. We have the 3 shields, and those stand for clinical care, research, and education. So we provide care, we want to generate the knowledge for the future, and we want to transmit that through education. Now, today we'll talk mostly about the care and some of the research. I won't talk much about our educational activities, but know that we're committed to that. In fact, recently opened our medical school here in Arizona. Now, as is customary in medical meetings and with medical talks, you have to start with your disclosure. So despite the fact that I am now an American citizen and I love this beautiful country of ours, when the time for football comes, this is my team. Right? So I always say, if you move from Arizona to Minnesota, are you going to change to be a Vikings fan? I don't think so. You're a Cardinals fan, right? And just to make it clear, I think you'll know it's been 5 years, but no era penal. Right? So thank you. You know, as a speaker, you're always nervous if your joke is going to make it or not, so it did. So let me tell you a little bit about the travels that I've been through and how that leads and connects to the Mayo Clinic. So I was born in Mexico City. I still have quite a bit of family there. My 2 brothers, a sister, my mother. I'll reference my mother a little bit later. But then I was very fortunate to start my training going to the University of Miami. And the word Hispanic means different things in different parts of the United States. Hispanic in Arizona means predominantly Mexican. Miami is the capital of Latin America. So I love Cuban food, but I'll tell you one thing, and no offense to any of my friends that have Alfredo Cuban links, there's not good Mexican food in Miami. So I sent my Hail Mary pass, and I was accepted to do my training in hematology and oncology at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. I still don't know why they accepted me, but they did. So I did my training there, and I lived there for 10 years, and I was really inspired to work with a group of people who form part of the medical team at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And then sometime in 2003, I'm in the parking lot and I'm removing ice from my windshield with some metal scrap that I found in my office. And I asked myself, what is a Mexican doing in Minnesota? Right? So, of course, that takes me to Phoenix, Arizona. And I have never looked back, and it was one of the best decisions in my life. Now, interestingly, this is linked to the Mayo Clinic because actually Mayo has locations at those 3 states. And I haven't practiced in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, which is a little bit northern, the northern part of Florida, but I did live, of course, in Rochester for 10 years, and it's just been an incredible experience to be part of this institution that we want to share and we want to project outwards. Mayo Clinic has close to 70,000 employees. We have over 6,000 employees here in the Valley, and we have about 6,000 physicians. Just to give you an idea of the magnitude, when I first got to Rochester, I was told, there's many operating rooms here, and that was over 120 operating rooms. I was told there were more MRI machines there than were in Canada at the time. And it's just the magnitude of the operations of the Mayo Clinic. And of course, our predecessors were smart enough that they decided we needed places in south of Minnesota, and that's how we came to be in Phoenix and in Scottsdale. Now, one of the reasons it's inspiring to work at Mayo Clinic is because everyone lives by its primary values. So every morning when I see people walking into our buildings, the nurses, allied health personnel, administrative staff, they know this. They know that the best interest of the patient is the only interest to be considered, and everything we do needs to be aligned with this particular value. And a way we phrase it is that the needs of the patient come first. And I think people truly live to this standard, and it is because of this that we can work together, that we can create the teams that serve our patients. Now, Mayo Clinic is a private, not-for-profit institution, but we do understand we have a significant social responsibility as well, too. And we do that in a number of ways. So one of them I already told you is research. And research is one of our 3 shields, is one of the key components of what we do. But just look at the numbers. We have about 1,000 researchers when you put together PhDs and physicians who are involved in research. And we have about another 3,000 individuals who are engaged in research in different capacities, technologists, people who use their expertise to help us with clinical trials and so forth. And we have close to 1 million square feet of space, 1 million square feet of space dedicated for research alone. So we want to generate the solutions for the future. We also do our part with social responsibility by providing quality and care for those who need, and that includes direct charity care that Mayo Clinic gives, $629 million. You see that, $83 million in charity care, as well as a number of other initiatives that attend to the needs of individuals, for instance, patients with Medicaid. Now, you already heard this, and this is not to toot our horn, but just to remind us that we are committed to deliver high-quality care. And there's a number of surveys, and they have all their pluses and their minuses, but they really are one of the ways in which we measure our commitment to deliver the best care possible for patients. And of course, we're very proud to say we were ranked as the #1 hospital in the state of Arizona and in the Valley. And this is how we project Mayo Clinic into the future. This is our next generation infrastructure. So a quick comment about this. We call this now the Arizona Bold Forward Project. So it's going to be an investment that will increase our capacity to see patients, will increase our number of hospital beds. And when you take this all together with the infrastructure that we're building for additional research and education, it's going to be shy of $1 billion investment in the northern part of the city. And we think this is just one step. We don't think this is sufficient for the totality of what we want to do into the future. And I was really struck when I first came down here from Minnesota. I met with President Crow many years ago, and he told me, in Arizona, nothing is complete, nothing is finished. And that always stuck with me, that we're always changing, we're always looking forward. And so our project in Arizona Bold Forward, and we have much to do together. By the way, I'd like to put a shout out because we have very, very strong working collaborations with groups like Arizona State University, TGen, many of the healthcare facilities here in the Valley, Phoenix Children's Hospital, Equality Health, and we believe that together we will do better than working separately. So I'll just keep in mind that word forward. Now, when doctors talk, often they use this image. It's called The Physician. It's a painting from the late 1800s by Sir Luc de Fields. And it just shows a doctor there attending to that little girl. You see her in those chairs. He's very concerned, very empathetic. great humanistic attributes. In the background, you see the father who's consoling mom. And oftentimes, this is used to exemplify the humanistic aspect of medicine, and indeed it was. But there was a problem. This doctor had no tools. This little girl could very well be dying from strep throat that got complicated. And we are doing much better, and we can do better. And in fact, let me just show you an example of that. If you just look at life expectancy, if you look at the early 1900s and you compare that to 2010, we've gained about 30 years in life expectancy. And my last slide will show you that this is not alone because of physicians. It's because of the work that is done by groups like yours. Now, if you look at the components, back in the 1900s, many people died of tuberculosis, as many as they died today from cancer. Just think about that. As many people died of tuberculosis as they die of cancer today. And we continue to make strides. In fact, in my specialty, you heard during the introduction, I'm a cancer doctor. And in my years of practice, I have seen tremendous changes and improvement for the care of our cancer patients. In fact, this is one of our buildings. We call this Building 3. But it functionally houses what we think of as the key elements of our cancer center. We have an NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center at Mayo Clinic. And one of my goals and one of my aspirations, and that of my colleagues, is that 20 years or 30 years from now, people look back and they laugh at us and they say, look at those guys. They had buildings for the care of cancer. Just like we would in saying, look at those in the 1950s. They were building sanatoriums for tuberculosis. And in fact, one doesn't have to go too far back to realize that things like this happen. So when I was in training in Miami, this was at the peak of the AIDS epidemic. And actually, the University of Miami was building buildings for the care of patients with AIDS. And now an individual who's diagnosed with HIV/AIDS can sometimes lead a near normal life expectancy taking 1 pill per day. So that's what we need for cancer, and we want to be participants of that change. Now, I know you're all business owners, and I want to show you some numbers that reflect what in economic terms could mean improvements in the care of cancer patients. So there's the studies, and they're cited in the bottom left. This study by Murphy and colleagues shows that a 1% reduction in cancer mortality would have a net value for present and future generations of America of $500 billion. Now, the American Cancer Society just reported that over the last 5 years, cancer survival has improved by 1.5%. So if you think about that, that's $750 billion. And if I had the magic wand, I wish I had. So if we had the cure for cancer, the net value would be $50 trillion. And guess what? I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to have a substantial impact in the care that we provide for cancer patients. And of course, the next wave will be the care for neurodegenerative disorders, such as could be Alzheimer's. On the right side, so we hear a lot about the expenses and the burden of what cancer care implies for families and for patients, but this group of investigators looked at the value of the war on cancer. Now, they had to go back several years so they could actually measure what was happening. And what they found is from 1988 to the year 2000, this resulted in 23 million additional life years for people in the United States, and most of the benefit was accrued by them. So, and we see this, and it's important as we think about businesses and you have individuals in your groups that require cancer care. Our hope is to return them to their productive lives, return them to their lives, and ultimately, if we could, to cure the majority of cancer patients. But we need to make this reality true for everyone, and I think you're going to hear more about this in the panel discussion. This is a map that was generated by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation looking at the life expectancy, and this is a valley alone, and you can see there are significant differences. And there's a number of factors, and I won't go into them because you're going to hear more about this during the panel presentation, but we want the knowledge and the options be available for everyone. Now, I'm going to show you something that is interesting. I don't know that many people know about this, but there's something called the Hispanic paradox. And this is my mother, and I'll tell you why. The data has shown that Hispanics, despite sometimes having less access to healthcare, will tend to have better outcomes than non-Hispanics in the United States. And in fact, you see on the left, the bar graph shows you the life expectancy divided by groups. So you see Hispanic females at the far left. have the best life expectancy. Now, why is that? Well, in general, there's a number of factors. People have wondered, is it some sort of bias that maybe the healthy are more likely to migrate, so you enrich for better genes? It's called the healthy salmon bias that has been pretty much disproven. It turns out that in general, we eat better and we smoke less. That's one of the key aspects of a very positive attribute for Hispanics. Now, there's some negative things. When you look at the graph on the right side of the slide, Hispanics are sort of the yellow colored, whereas non-Hispanics are in the green and the gray. And in general, so if you're to the left, that means your survival is better for the various diagnoses that I show there. So most of them were doing well, with the exception of obesity and diabetes. And unfortunately, recently, Mexico has surpassed every other country in the globe with the rates of obesity. So that's something we need to be mindful. We need to work around that. And of course, the work that is being done by a group from Datos, just like providing healthy food options for all of the members of the community, will remain a very important aspect. And I say my mother because she's 84. She's never set foot in a gym. She eats whatever she wants, and the woman has no wrinkles, and she looks awesome. And actually, I always think about her when I think about this, and I ask myself, if we can do well because we're doing already some things very, very well, why don't we do better by providing access to everyone and providing the solutions we need as a community? Now, I'm going to show you something that I think is really mind-boggling. One of my colleagues in Mayo Clinic in Rochester did a study where, we can ask people now, okay, what is your ancestry? And there's tools like 23andMe and others that can tell you, well, this is your composition of your ancestry, right? Ultimately, we're all one race, and we all started in Africa as a human race, but obviously there's some components of how humans migrated in the early years, so people have figured out certain genes that would more likely tell you where you're from. So on the left, you see if someone was self-reported as Caucasian, and you look at their genes, they're mostly either Northern European or Mediterranean. Pretty accurate. If someone was self-reported as being of African descent, the majority of the gene markers would be consistent with that. But here's what's going to blow your mind. These are Hispanics. We are the melting pot. Our gene markers come from all places. And in fact, I think this reflects what we see in our communities. So there's a little bit of Northern European, African, Native American, other, and Mediterranean. So this is really, really telling, because it tells me, obviously, that it's not some genetic feature that really unifies us. I think there's things that are more important for us. And Monica talked about the 10% for health. And I think it's more the culture, the language, the tradition, and the strong family ties that the Hispanic community has. And we can do tremendous things when we work together. The picture you see there is on my Twitter profile, is kind of the banner at the top, and was taken 2 years ago. This was during the earthquake in Mexico City, September 19, so just yesterday, 2 years ago, September 19, 2017. And despite the tragedy, reading about the stories of how people organized, how they coordinated through social media, how they coordinated what they were wearing to tell others whether you were a driver, you were a medic, you were an engineer, how they coordinated to have timestamps to tell people when things perhaps were no longer needed, how neighbors opened their Wi-Fi networks so you could have access to Wi-Fi if you were helping in the field, and how neighbors put out power cords out their windows so you could recharge your batteries. I did a write-up about this because I just thought the whole episode was quite heroic. But most importantly for me, it gave me a great sense of pride because this was coming out of the Hispanic community. So, probably most of you know who this guy is. Alejandro González Iñárritu, one of the best movie directors in the world, who has won so far for Oscar. And, obviously, we're a beautiful country, but we're not perfect. And when some of the tribulations came about because of the debates about immigration, he also made a statement that stuck with me, and he said, and this is not comparing us with anyone, but just a statement of the work ethic of Hispanics. And he said, you never see a Hispanic asking in a corner or in a light stop in the traffic. Hispanics work very, very hard, and that is my observation, and that has been my relationship with everyone that I've interacted with. Now, these are some still shots that we recently used in a campaign to project the activities we do at Mayo Clinic. I'll tell you, Mayo Clinic lives and serves in what we call the top of the pyramid, so very complex care. We have the largest transplant program in the nation. We do transplant of multiple organs, complex care for cancer, etc. But we really are available to everyone. And we're looking for and trying new solutions where we can actually have even a greater reach to what we call the base of the pyramid, and perhaps even some of this in partnership with others. And here's my final slide, and it's a provocative thought that cannot leave my mind, but it really aligns so well with what you're hearing today from the information you're hearing from Datos. And the question is, what is it medicine and what is health? So the question is actually very, very complex. When you think about wellness, and you think about health, the treatment of diseases, and recovery from diseases, I will suggest to you that only part of this is the domain of physicians and medicine. And we sometimes don't like that because, physicians are a very smart group. They're opinionated group, and we have strong ideas of what we are experts in. But it turns out we can't be experts at everything, and we need the partnership, and we need the leadership, and we need the guidance from people like you and many others who can help us deliver on the health promise for everyone. And with that, I leave you with the thought that I'm really, really honored to be part of this group today, and I thank you for your attention.
Gracias, Dr. Fonseca. We appreciate you sharing your insights with us today. So I actually have the winner names, but I can't give them to you right now because that would mean I would have to go off script and then they fire me, and that's really not good. But I do have winner names, and those are coming up. Thank you for participating. Before I introduce our panel moderator and discussion on healthcare, I want to remind our audience today to keep posting on your favorite social media platform using hashtag DatosAZ. Let's make Datos go viral. This could be a thing, you guys. Okay, now here to lead an important conversation is panel moderator John Ford, the Director of Strategic Initiatives for Vitalist Health Foundation, one of today's sponsors. John, I'll let you introduce your esteemed panel.
Put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do?
Good. There we go. Good morning. Hope everybody's having a great time. Can we just one more time, I know it's really repetitive, but can we just one more time congratulate Monica on what she's doing here? One, two, three, we love you. Okay. Can I have my panelists come on up, please? I do love you. On the other hand, we prepared for this panel, and then did you notice how Monica gave us a whole laundry list of things to do? She's like, you're going to hear about this in the panel. You're going to hear about this in the panel. And then Dr. Fonseca said the same thing. So you guys ready to ad-lib? You guys ready to improv? Good, 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 good. We have a fantastic group with us today. Luckily, they didn't bring all the pieces of paper that they've earned, all the degrees, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see them. This is a really, really tremendous group of people. And we're here today to have a conversation that's rather big. In fact, guys, if you can put the wheel back up on the screen, we appreciate that. This is our playground today, folks. We are here to talk about healthcare, but we're also here to traverse the length from healthcare back to community. Monica had it in her slide. She said, health is all around you as much as it is part of healthcare. We saw the slide that said genes and healthcare about 10%, right? So, and yet we have a bunch of we have a range of folks who work in both healthcare and community health, and some of you do both. Matt Huntelman from TGen. All the titles I can't even get. Something about neurogenomics, right? The
Yeah,
omics.
That's right.
Talk to us about the research you do, the work that TGen's doing, and how that sort of links up with our topic today, which is the Latinx community, Hispanics, and the data that you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a researcher. I study the brain. I try to understand what makes all of us different in the way we remember things. And what I want to emphasize to the group today is that research sits sort of on the far end of the healthcare stream, if you will, since we're talking about healthcare today. And research is there to help us understand our various risks for diseases, but also to identify new therapies, new drugs, new ways to fight disease. And admittedly, research has not done a good job of representing the Latino community and other underserved minority communities in the past. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of those was mentioned earlier. If you remember Monica's slide, about halfway down, about 15% reported problems with access to healthcare. Also, it's access to research. So a lot of times our research studies are conducted 9 to 5 every day, weekdays. So we are very biased then in the people who can actually participate in the research. So just very briefly to the group here, we are really trying to understand how to better do research that's as inclusive as possible. One of our ideas was to have our study live on the internet, which means it's open 24/7. Anybody can participate any time of the day. So our study is a test of the brain. It's called MindCrowd. You can join us at mindcrowd.org. And what we found is that we do end up seeing greater representation because of the equalizer that the internet is.
Thank you, Matt. By the way, I'm going to give your supposed titles, but remember, Monica said we are all CEO of the Chamber. Right? So, Hugh Lytle, Equality Health, founder, CEO, chairman. I always like the word serial entrepreneur because it makes me think of breakfast. When we talked earlier, when Monica brought up the data, not just about access to coverage, which I thought was really fascinating, right? So access to coverage, 83.9% of Hispanics have access to healthcare coverage. That means, 16%, 17% don't. And then we've got this even more compelling number that says 20 to 25% of Hispanics feel they are discriminated against during the healthcare experience. Talk about what the work is at Equality Health and how you're working to change that.
Sure. Thanks. I'm not crazy about serial entrepreneur either. It sounds weird. But yeah, so we in healthcare in this country, we spend a lot of time talking about the graying of America, and rightly so. We have an aging population, and there's been a lot of innovation that CMS has driven around innovation for senior care, and that's wonderful. It's needed. However, what hasn't been talked about is this nation's changing diversity, which is growing just as fast, if not faster, where you have 60 million Latinos in this country growing to 135 million by 2050, yet no organized delivery system, healthcare delivery system that they feel a part of, that they feel attracted to. And so what we describe ourselves at Equality Health is really, we are an organized or integrated delivery system that focuses on ethnic and underserved populations. We build population health-focused delivery systems. And we do this on behalf of our health plan partners. We have many partners in the audience here today, both in the community, on our community advisory board, as well as our health plan partners. But what we do is help them better enable and engage the Latino community, in this case, to help produce better outcomes for the community. And so we do this, though, at the heart of it is really how we advance in an aggressive way the doctor-patient relationship through the lens of culture. We are very, very focused on, through our network now of almost 3,000 providers across the state, mostly half of those primary care providers. That includes also one of the state's largest behavioral health networks and community-based networks. We tech enable that group, and we drive better enablement of care for the Latino patient at the point of care. And why does culture matter? Well, culture matters because what we do is we push the values. We train every one of these providers on the values of the Latino community: respect, trust, family, spirituality, and build that into the practice. You heard Monica talk about that earlier, about the understanding the family dynamic in a practice. And so we do that so that And that's the first thing. Second thing is cost. The cost of health disparities in this country is $250 billion a year we spend in excess medical costs. In North Carolina, for example, they had a prevalence of diabetes of 9% across the state, right? You know this. They looked in their racial and ethnic mixed Medicaid plan, 76%, costing an additional $225 million in excess healthcare costs. So our job at Equality Health is really to drive the community model so that we can create equal health care for everyone and advance each individual's individual health equity.
Chris Gaw.
John.
COO Valleywise Health.
Correct.
When you saw Monica's slide about access to care, and when you saw the factors like locations, hours, transportation, and distance, what was going through your mind relative to what Valleywise is doing today?
Thanks, John, and thanks for having me back again this year. You know, last year while I was here, I described what is called in Valleywise Healthcare Reimagined, and that was Proposition 480, that back in 2014, 64% of the voters said yes to rebuilding our health system. And why is that? Because we are the academic teaching organization, Safety Net Health System for Maricopa County, and we put learners through our organization, but what we did was we used the data. And so we put our clinics across Maricopa County where the most underserved population resides. 60% of our population that we serve is Hispanic. And so Datos data is incredibly important to us. It helps us drive decisions. It helps us link to Monica's visions. You know, when she talks culture, collaboration, and competency, we touch all of those through the data. We have 35 certified medical interpreters that help in the delivery of that care so that, as Monica talked about, we try to lessen that anxiety for the Hispanic population by having, you know, interpreters, medical interpreters there. We also have classes in our organization for people that just want to learn conversational Spanish, given that we serve that much of the population. So data has driven us to be where the population needs us. And so the Maryville Hospital is a great example of something that was data-driven. We were deep in our planning process when that opportunity presented itself. An emergency department in the heart of the most dense underserved population in Maricopa County. We had an opportunity to acquire that, to not only reserve over 40,000 ER visits of the most underserved, but also to turn that hospital into a behavioral health hospital. So really serving two critical needs in the community with a data-driven decision.
Nice, thank you. Dr. Susan Pepin, you are in the cleanup position at the moment. You good with that?
I have no choice.
As director, as a managing director of health and clinical partnerships at ASU, when you look at the entirety of what's been discussed this morning, as well as what some of our colleagues have already brought up, and then you put that through the frame of that new American Gothic visual, what are you thinking about in terms of Hispanic population health and the work that ASU is doing?
One, I'm humbled hearing, and I know about a lot of the work that my colleagues talk about, but I'm humbled to be in this group, and I think about what Dr. Fonseca said in terms of Michael Crow saying it doesn't stop in Arizona. It's pretty exciting. In terms of ASU, I'm glad you're willing to stay here for the rest of the afternoon so that I can tell you all that ASU does in the health space. I got a few little laughs there, thank you. We don't have a medical school, but we do so much in the health space that ASU strives to be the academic hub, the virtual center for health to, you know, I see it in three prongs. The first, you might have heard that ASU defines itself by who it includes and not excludes. So we know the connection to education and health, and we also care very much about the workforce of the future. In the last 12 years, the Hispanic student population enrollment has doubled, and in the fall of 2018, it went up to 15,700. In 2019, ASU was one of 9 institutes of higher education that received the Seal of Excelencia by Excelencia in Education. It's a voluntary certificate, basically, that awards the institutions that are striving to increase enrollment and success in education with the hope by 2030 of really increasing those graduating from college. So the education part is one prong. The second prong is our community partnerships. We do want to partner and do partner with not just health delivery systems, but nonprofits and community organizations that are improving the lives, that are working with the Latinx population. I'll give you a couple examples. Both are involved with Dr. Flavio Marsilia. They work with the Southwest Interdisciplinary Research Center, and they're nationally NIH, National Institutes of Health Minorities and Health Disparities funded. One is called Every Little Step Counts, and it's a diabetes prevention program that really works with communities in a culturally relevant way for diabetes prevention in obese adolescent Hispanic kids. The other is it's called Families Promoting, let me get this right, the future, families working on the future of, and I'm getting the name completely wrong, but it is a wonderful operation that is really looking at the social determinants around nutrition and prevention of substance abuse by considering the influences of the social determinants, what's going on in the neighborhood, what's going on in the family that's adding to not being able to get to nutrition, and things like not having food availability around, healthy food around. So those are the examples of partnering and really working in the community. I want to give another example of taking the responsibility for the health of the communities we serve, which is the last line of the charter of ASU. Just this month, the new Center for Innovation for Healthy and Aging had partnered with Banner's Alzheimer Institute, and at Banner had the first ever Hispanic Alzheimer's conference. Hispanic communities are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease, and yet, as was alluded to by Matt, or talked about, really understudied in the Hispanic population and certainly underserved. So this conference gathered and attracted over 120 community members, often many of them caregivers. Sessions were both in Spanish and English to really try to demystify some of the aspects around Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's care, and talk about the need for better research on the Hispanic population. So those are some of the areas that ASU works in.
And the rest will be later this afternoon? Okay, good, thank you. Mr. Lytle, and actually all of you need to be prepared for this one, right? So we're all CEO according to Monica. We're all CEO. You're CEO of Community Health. We've talked quite a bit today, we've heard quite a bit today about how health is more than healthcare. And we've seen the zip code maps, we've seen the data. What keys the approach? If you're CEO of Community Health, what keys your approach to improving Hispanic community health?
So if you take the great research that's been done, Sue talked about, and Matt, those of you who've heard me speak before, and many of you believe, I know in this room, no matter what your political affiliation, that the quality of your health care should not be dictated by how much money you make. It's pretty ridiculous that that's the case, but it is the case in this country. And so what's been great about the changes at the federal level and payment reform is it's driven from a fee-for-service system to a value-based system. And what that means is we're being paid now on outcomes in this country. And that's important as now the healthcare ecosystem starts to reevaluate what is population health? How do I really affect the population in a macro way? In the past, that has been primarily age, gender, and chronic disease adjusted over time. Now we have to take into account this entire new thing called social determinants of health. Medical care is only 20% of true healthcare costs when you take in the barriers to getting care. The social determinants of health by the World Health Organization are defined as where we are born, where we live and work, and ultimately where we age. And so therefore, you have to be able to drop a big net around a community, and that's what we do at Equality Health. Our job is to really drive population health by all the components it takes. So we start with big data. We start with hot spotting the areas that we represent. So we have 6 underserved districts in Maricopa County, 2 in Pima County, and as defined by a lot of different criteria. I would be remiss if I didn't note the great and honorable Tony Astorga, who's taught us, a longtime chamber chairman, who has taught us to make sure we run a SWOT analysis on that, strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats on that community, and look at the acculturation levels within those communities. But ultimately what we do is we use that then to inform our network development. So we integrate our primary care, our behavioral health, and our community-based organization networks. And then the most important thing, based on some recent tweets and things I've been putting out lately, where we're excited to say that we're now able to integrate the data and information flow for those different components of care so that people know exactly what to do. We have an assessment tool that we train all of our providers on called the SUCRA. It's a social cultural risk assessment that looks at 15 questions that every person answers that are members of Equality Health, that has social questions as well as social barriers as well as cultural risk questions that we can help them overcome.
Is there anything, by the way, that you found in the SUCRA that didn't play out today in the data that we saw? Anything different?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we started on the SUCRA version 1, right? And so there were some things that we found. Some of our cultural trigger questions were around things like language and home remedies. We're finding there's other questions.
Vapor rub?
What's that?
Vapor rub?
Yeah, vapor rub, that's right. We need to add that. But what we found is that we're working with Sue and ASU and John Ware, the founder of the SF36 and 12, to help us refine that survey instrument down to get better and better.
Sue, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I'm going to let Hugh talk a little bit more.
Yeah, I got a couple other things. So that was, we got to the SUCRA and we got to the assessment, but we can't get there with network alone, as we found. We still have patients that are complex and have services that are needed, so opioid addiction, substance abuse, and so we actually have clinics as well that service complex needs in those communities. And that's not enough either. We have access to care issues. So we've put in retail clinics in food cities we'll put them ultimately around all the food cities that have pharmacies in the valley and statewide. But that allows us to also provide access to care and an alternative to emergency room as well. And then last, we have boots on the ground. We have to be able to do work. So we have ambulatory care teams and promotores, community health workers that go into the home and take the patient all the way from hospital to home and ensure that transition in a culturally competent manner.
Chris, this sounds very familiar to you, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So talk about how does Valleywise complement this kind of work, or do you guys work in partnership? How do you?
We do, but before I do that, in case you don't know who Valleywise Health is, we are formerly Maricopa Integrated Health System.
You said it.
I know, right? I just want to make sure if you didn't get that memo out in the crowd, you know it now. And our link to that is if you go by our 24th and Roosevelt campus where the Arizona Burn Center is, you'll see a 7-story banner that was unveiled last week. And I think that speaks a little bit to our commitment to the Hispanic community because it not only says welcome, it says bienvenidos. And I think that's a testament to what we're doing. But back to your question, back to your CEO comment as well.
Yeah.
I think the key to population health is as CEOs and chief operating officers, we have to put egos aside. And we have to live out one of Monica's values and her visions, which is collaboration. And Valleywise Health does that in many different ways. We're working with the Vitalist Health Foundation, who is doing some phenomenal work with health plans and health systems across the county to address the ever-growing issue of homelessness. So we work with Circle the City, we work with CAS, we work with a variety of agencies given the population we serve. We're addressing that wheel, the elements of a healthy community in everyday life and what we do. We sponsor a food bank at our main campus every month. We partner with St. Mary's Food Bank to do that, to address the nutrition element that Monica talked about. I mean, I too could keep you here all afternoon with some of just the great work that's going on, not just at Valleywise Health, but with our partners. We partner with ASU. Sounds like we have some other great partners we could have in research with the Hispanic population and how to really address what Dr. Fonseca talked about, that life expectancy. I mean, here in the same state, to have the difference from Tucson to here, I believe it's 14 years difference. That's a call to action.
That is a call to action. Thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for bringing up that point about collaboration, because in fact, everybody sitting here on this platform has been working together for quite some time, and very successfully so. I'm getting the high sign about time. Matt, closing remarks?
Sure, yeah. So as CEO, I would be selfish, and I would focus on the research end of the spectrum, and that also requires collaboration. So the Hispanic community needs to feel more comfortable and more welcomed into research projects. And then the researchers need to understand what the community needs. Off-hours times to come participate, easier access, and compensation for taking time off work, for example. I just want to emphasize to this group here that not every, so some results from research are positive and some are negative. I'll share with one briefly with you. So we recently found that performance in our memory test was higher in folks who were bilingual. So this speaks to the enriching power of speaking two languages. And sometimes I think we try and convince folks that, you know, we should focus on one language, but actually our work suggests that being able to speak two languages fluently results in even better memory performance.
Dr. Fonseca, where are you? Does that explain the Hispanic paradox? Sue, closing thoughts?
You know, I just so appreciate these thoughts. I think collaboration and bringing down the barriers, human nature, I think, is to silo, and the less we do that and the more we drop egos and think about the mission of improving the health of our community together, we're more powerful. And you know, thinking about the healthy elements to our life, it takes a village, it takes the university, it takes nonprofits, it takes our healthcare delivery systems, it takes our public entities, and it really takes business. So really want to thank you for inviting us. I'll speak for everybody up here. It's such an important organization, and kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you to all of our panelists. We give them a round of applause, please. We do have to wrap up. We thank you very much. We hope you take away from this that truly health is much more than healthcare. We've got a long way to go, and we need to do that together. So we're so grateful to the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for having us here, and we look forward to working with you all soon. Thank you very much.
You keep clapping until I make it up here, sorry. Thank you once again to the panelists. Let's give them another round of applause. And of course, a special thanks to John for leading an engaging discussion. As we wrap up Datos 2019, we are already preparing for 2020. To give you a sneak peek on next year's topic of education, I would like to introduce Brian Mueller, president of Grand Canyon University.
Thank you very much. I know we're running late, so I'll be quick, I promise. I just want to say to Monica, congratulations on your new appointment, and thank you very much for including Grand Canyon University here and give us an opportunity to close this up. There's a tremendously exciting story that's going to be told next year. Arizona has absolutely so much promise with regards to education and what we can do to move the state forward. I told the governor the other day, if I was you, I'd be out there saying a couple things. One, we have the largest, most dynamic community college system in the entire country here in Maricopa County. And their chancellor is here this morning. So congratulations on all you're doing. Secondly, we have the largest state university in the nation, one of the most dynamic, one of the most innovative institutions in the country. They are doing things that aren't going on in any other state university in the country, and so we've got that in the state of Arizona. So all of you Sun Devils, congratulations on Arizona State. We now have the largest private Christian university in the country. Arizona State has over 100,000 students. Grand Canyon University now is serving over 100,000 students. In fact, let me just say that I am in some ways a very diverse person here in Arizona. I have 4 boys. My 2 oldest sons went to Arizona State University. They got great educations and they're doing very well. My 2 youngest sons, when I went to Grand Canyon, they came to Grand Canyon. They got great educations, and they're doing very well. We try to always be completely transparent and honest at Grand Canyon, and I will be honest with you in saying that they're all doing well. The 2 youngest will do better in the will than the 2 oldest. But other than that, they're doing well. In fact, I will tell you that I'm looking forward to a marketing opportunity, and many of you have heard me say this before. We haven't played to this date, but to this day. But I'm looking very much forward to one of the big athletic events that will be in Arizona someday. I think we've got Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in West Phoenix. We've got the Arizona State University Sun Devils in Tempe. At some point, we need to schedule a basketball game down at Talking Stick Arena. If you think about this from a marketing standpoint, we could advertise that game, for those of you that are biblically literate, for 40 days and 40 nights as the Christians against the devils. We would sell that game out. We would make so much money. We get 60, they get 40, because it's my idea. Let me just say that Grand Canyon is a education story, but it's also a business story. 11 years ago, when we were on the verge of bankruptcy, we went to the public markets. We pitched an idea. We would like to try to build a private Christian university with a completely different financial model that would make higher education affordable to all socioeconomic classes of Americans. We used that early dollars to get things moving, and very honestly, we've been blessed in ways that we never anticipated. We put $1.5 billion into our campus in the last 6 years. We've grown from 900 students to this year 22,500 students on our campus. We have over 80,000 students that are studying online. We have 9 colleges, 240 academic programs. In the next couple of years, the university will grow out on its campus to 30,000 students. It's a tremendous story from a diversity perspective. We're very proud of the fact that we have 28% of our students are Hispanic, 7% are African American, over 40% of our students on our campus are students of color. And so there's been no affirmative action plan, no special marketing plan. We've made higher education affordable to all socioeconomic classes of Americans, and diversity has resulted. We also are serving almost 500 DACA students on our campus, which we are very, very pleased and excited to do. And so the education stories are tremendous, but I want to say just briefly that the community story at 33rd Avenue and Camelback is a more exciting story. About 6 years ago, when we knew we would have the $1.5 billion to invest in the campus, the decision was, do you stay at 33rd Avenue and Camelback, or do you go to Scottsdale or Paradise Valley or anywhere but where we were, because we were in the worst crime area in the city of Phoenix. We made a decision that we were going to plant our flag there, and we were going to grow that thing out. We put a 5-point plan in place, the first part of which is to grow the university at 33rd Avenue and Camelback. What's happened is that we've created 11,000 jobs, 5,000 full-time, 3,000 part-time, 3,000 student workers. We're hiring people in the community. It's really important because we are in a community that is mainly Latino, There's a lot of poverty. There's also a lot of immigrants. But when we hire people in the community, not only do they get a job, a salary, benefits, but they also can send their kids to college for free. The second thing that we try to do is spin as many businesses off of our core business as possible and plant them in the neighborhood. We've spun 12 businesses off in the last 3 years. They employ over 400 people. They're small businesses, but they're growing. They create more jobs, and the people that work at those places can send their kids to college for free, which can change the trajectory of that family. The third thing is we've invested $1.6 million in the Crime Safety Initiative, which has allowed us to reduce crime in our neighborhood very, very significantly. Thank you to the Phoenix Police Department and to Grand Canyon's security force, because together things are really improving. Fourth thing is we have the largest Habitat for Humanity program in the world going on. Habitat is an unbelievable organization. Our partnership has resulted in us raising $3 million a year. We've rehabbed so far 240 homes. Our goal is to rehab 800 homes in 5-year time frame. Housing values since we started that program in our neighborhood are up 302%. So those $100,000 homes, yes, are now worth $300,000. And so the last thing that is very exciting, and maybe some of you can help me with this, but we got really excited about the public schools in our neighborhood. And so we started a tutoring program, which has exploded. We have 1,200 students that every day between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock are providing tutoring to kids from over 100 schools in our neighborhood. The schools send kids to the Grand Canyon, and then we send students out, but it's having a tremendous impact. We started raising money for that program. We told students that are attending that program that if you attend 100 hours and you get a 3.5 GPA or higher, you can apply for a scholarship. We now have 280 kids on full tuition scholarships that come out of Alhambra High School, North High School, Maryvale High School. 95% of the students are Latino. Many of them are DACA students. And I'm telling you, the character, somebody mentioned the work ethic of the Hispanic community, and I'm experiencing it firsthand every single day. The most recent class of kids that came in are 95% Hispanic. Their average incoming GPA is 4.1, and those kids achieved that in high school not knowing for sure if they were going to have a chance to go to college. The work ethic is tremendous. Yes. The story of the university is a good one. We're proud of it, but the story of that community is even more important. We hope that in the next number of years, the kids on those scholarships will grow that to 800, which means we need to raise between $3 to $4 million on an annual basis to make that happen. We're going to raise the money. We're going to get the number to 800. And when there are 800 kids on that campus from our immediate neighborhood being educated with kids from all over the country, from all different socioeconomic classes of our country, it's going to be a study that I think is going to be very important. So I think there's a lot of exciting things that are going to happen between now and next year's event. There's going to be some great stories to tell in terms of next year's event. We're very proud to be part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Brian. We're looking forward to next year. And with that, we're almost done. How's the energy in the room? Yes. I realized nobody danced coming up to the podium. Was that like not allowed to dance because there was music? Anyhow, okay, moving on. The winner of 2 tickets. Oh, it's time to announce. Now it's time in the script to announce the winners. Are you guys ready? I didn't win, unfortunately, but that's okay. The winner of 2 tickets to the Black and White Ball is Jose Ñañez of First Citizens Bank. Where are you? Come on up. And actually, yes, if you can make your way up, they will be taking your information right next to the podium right here. Now let's go to the 2 tickets to Puerto Vallarta round trip, courtesy of Volaris Airlines and Travel Mexico, is Damaris Guglielmi from Desert Financial. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Come on down. Congratulations. And we have brunch for two at the AZ Baltimore right here. Courtney Miller from West Group Research. Congratulations. Yes, awesome. If anybody needs a date to brunch or to Puerto Vallarta or to the ball, I'm here. I'm available. Let me know. So once again, congratulations to our winners. In closing, I want to thank the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to MC. I know you do this every year, so again, if you need an MC, I'm here. It was a lot of fun. It's been my pleasure. This is actually the third year that I've been able to MC the Datos event, so it's really exciting. It's one of my favorite events. Thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and especially to you, the audience, for supporting this event every year. Also, thank you to the staff of the Arizona Biltmore who served us so beautifully this morning. We truly appreciate it. Gracias. Yes. Now, I almost forgot it's Friday, so have a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. We'll see you next year at Datos.